The strangest thing about a final signature is that you never know what it is truly ending. Nathan Whitmore arrived 10 minutes early. That was something he had always been proud of. He believed control came from preparation, from knowing the numbers before the meeting, from walking into every room with a plan already written in his mind. The glass doors of Whitmore and Lane Legal opened quietly as he stepped inside. The office was exactly what he expected. Polished floors, quiet conversations, expensive furniture, and the kind of atmosphere where every decision carried weight. Today was supposed to be simple. One signature, one final document, one last chapter. Nathan adjusted the sleeve of his navy suit and looked at the folder resting in his hand. The divorce agreement had taken months to complete. Months of negotiations, conversations, and uncomfortable reminders of a marriage that had slowly disappeared. But now it was almost over. He told himself he felt nothing. That was easier. Across the room, Olivia Bennett sat near the window. For a moment, Nathan almost didn't recognize her. Not because she looked different, because she looked peaceful. She wore a simple cream-colored blouse beneath a tailored coat. Her hair fell naturally around her shoulders. There was no anger in her expression, no bitterness waiting behind her eyes. Only calm. And somehow, that bothered him more than anger would have. Olivia. She turned. Nathan. Her voice was gentle, but distant. The same voice he remembered from years ago. The voice that used to ask if he had eaten dinner. The voice that stayed awake when he worked late. The voice that celebrated his victories before anyone else knew about them. A voice he had stopped truly listening to. They exchanged a brief nod. No hug. No argument. No dramatic words. Just two people who once knew everything about each other sitting across from the remains of their marriage. The attorney, Michael Reynolds, entered carrying a thin stack of documents. Good morning. We should be able to complete everything today. Nathan smiled slightly. Good. I appreciate everyone making this efficient. His eyes moved toward Olivia. There was no accusation in his expression, only a quiet assumption. He believed this meeting was harder for her. After all, he was the one who had built the company. He was the one who understood investments, contracts, and financial decisions. Olivia had always been the emotional one, the supportive one, the person standing beside the success story. At least, that was the story he had told himself. Michael placed the documents on the table. The final agreement is ready for review. Nathan reached for the pen. Then he noticed something. Olivia wasn't looking at the divorce papers. She was looking at another folder placed beside them. A folder with her name written across the top. Nathan paused. What is that? Olivia glanced at it, then back at him. For the first time that morning, there was the smallest hint of a smile. Something I've been working on. Nathan leaned back slightly. He expected many things from this meeting. A difficult conversation, a request, perhaps even regret. But he never expected curiosity, because the woman sitting across from him was no longer waiting for the life they had lost. She was preparing to reveal the life she had built after it. And Nathan was about to learn that the signature he came for was not the only thing waiting on that table. Nathan always believed the hardest part of losing someone was watching them leave. He never imagined the hardest part would be realizing they had already moved on without him. The room remained silent after Michael Reynolds placed the documents on the table. Nathan Whitmore looked at the folder with Olivia Bennett's name written across it. For several seconds, he said nothing. It was unusual. Nathan was rarely speechless. His entire career had been built on reading situations before anyone else. He knew when to negotiate, when to push, and when to step back. But sitting across from Olivia that morning, he felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. What exactly is that? Nathan asked. Olivia lowered her eyes toward the folder. It's something I needed to complete before today. Her answer was calm. Too calm. Nathan studied her carefully. Years ago, he could read every emotion on her face. When she was worried, she touched the small silver bracelet he had given her on their anniversary. When she was hurt, she became quiet. When she was afraid, she tried to make everyone else comfortable first. But this version of Olivia was different. She was quiet because she had nothing to prove. Michael adjusted his glasses and looked between them. Before we continue with the divorce documents, there are a few things that need to be clarified. Nathan leaned back. He expected financial discussions. Assets. Accounts. The usual details that came with ending a marriage. He had already prepared himself. During the divorce process, Nathan had assumed Olivia's biggest concern would be security. He thought she would worry about the house, the savings, the lifestyle she had become accustomed to. After all, he was the one who built the company. He was the one who handled investments. He was the one who made decisions. Or at least, that was what he had believed. I want everything handled fairly, Nathan said. Olivia looked at him. I know. There was no anger in her voice. That somehow made the words heavier. Nathan noticed the difference. A person who wanted revenge would have looked satisfied. A person who wanted money would have looked nervous. Olivia looked neither. She looked free. The attorney opened the folder slowly. Inside were several documents carefully organized in order. The reason Olivia requested this meeting was not only to finalize the separation agreement. Nathan glanced at Olivia. Then why? Michael paused. Because sometimes the truth needed a moment before it entered the room. Because Olivia has completed a transaction that affects the future ownership structure of Bennett Strategic Solutions. Nathan frowned. The name sounded familiar, but not enough. Bennett Strategic Solutions? Olivia remained silent. Michael nodded. Yes. Nathan looked back at her. When did you start a company? A small silence followed. Not an uncomfortable one. A meaningful one. After we separated, Olivia answered. Nathan searched her expression for something. A sign that she was trying to impress him. A sign that this was meant to hurt him. There was nothing. Only honesty. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it mattered. Those words landed harder than any accusation. Because Nathan suddenly understood something. For years, he had measured Olivia by what she needed from him, not by what she was capable of becoming without him. Michael placed the next document in front of them. This signature will finalize the agreement. Nathan reached for the pen, then stopped. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't wondering what he was about to lose. He was wondering what he had failed to see. And across the table, Olivia quietly waited. Not for him to understand her success, but for him to finally understand her worth. The documents on the table were supposed to end a marriage. Instead, they revealed a life Nathan Whitmore never knew existed. The silence inside the conference room felt heavier than the paperwork between them. Nathan sat across from Olivia, watching as Michael Reynolds carefully arranged the documents in front of him. For years, Nathan had been comfortable in rooms like this. Boardrooms, negotiation tables, executive offices where decisions were made by people who knew exactly what they wanted. But this room felt different. Because the person sitting across from him was someone he thought he understood. And he was beginning to realize he never truly had. Michael opened the first document. This agreement covers the remaining legal separation details. Nathan nodded. He glanced briefly at the pages before looking back at Olivia. She was reading every line carefully. Not nervously. Not desperately. Carefully. That small difference caught his attention. During their marriage, Olivia had always trusted him with decisions involving money and contracts. She used to sit beside him at the kitchen table while he reviewed business reports. She would ask questions. He would answer, sometimes patiently, sometimes not. Looking back, Nathan wondered how many times she had stopped asking because she already knew he wasn't listening. You know, Nathan said quietly, I always thought this part would be harder for you. Olivia lifted her eyes. What part? Starting over. The words were not cruel. That was what made them more complicated. Nathan genuinely believed he was being honest. He believed he was acknowledging reality. You spent so much time building a life around our marriage, he continued. I just assumed this would take longer. Olivia looked at him for a moment. Then she looked down at the documents again. I did spend time building something. Nathan nodded slightly, almost expecting her to agree. But it wasn't only our marriage. The sentence stayed in the air. Michael glanced between them, but said nothing. Some truths were better discovered than explained. Nathan leaned back. What does that mean? Olivia did not answer immediately. Instead, she opened the folder with her name on it. Inside were several pages, carefully organized. No dramatic presentation. No attempt to create a moment. Just facts. I never wanted to compete with you, Nathan. Her voice remained calm. That was never the point. Nathan frowned slightly. Then what was? Olivia touched the edge of the document. The point was finding out who I was when nobody was watching. For the first time that morning, Nathan had no immediate response. Because he remembered the final year of their marriage. He remembered coming home late. He remembered meetings taking priority over dinners. He remembered telling Olivia that once things became successful, they would have more time. But somehow, success kept moving further away. And Olivia became quieter. At the time, Nathan thought she was losing interest. He never considered that she was learning to stand on her own. Michael finally spoke. There is another reason Olivia requested that this meeting happen today. Nathan looked at him. Another reason? Yes. The attorney turned the folders slightly toward them. Nathan saw a company name. A name he recognized. Not immediately, but enough to feel something shift. Bennett Strategic Solutions. His eyes moved back to Olivia. You started this? She nodded. After we separated. Nathan stared at the page. 1,000 thoughts moved through his mind. When did this happen? How did he not know? Why had nobody told him? But the hardest question was the simplest one. How could he have spent years beside someone and never noticed what she was capable of becoming? Olivia closed the folder gently. I wasn't hiding it from you. A pause. I just stopped explaining myself to someone who had already decided who I was. And for the first time since walking into the office, Nathan felt the weight of the meeting. This was not about a signature. Not really. It was about everything he had overlooked before that signature ever touched the page. Sometimes the person who leaves you behind is the last person to realize how far you have traveled without them. The name on the document was still there. Bennett Strategic Solutions. Nathan Whitmore stared at the words printed neatly across the page, trying to connect them with the woman sitting across from him. Olivia Bennett. His ex-wife. The woman he once knew as someone who preferred quiet mornings, handwritten notes, and small moments over business meetings and financial reports. The woman he believed needed him. But the document in front of him told a different story. Michael Reynolds turned another page. Olivia founded this company 3 years ago. Nathan looked up. 3 years. Olivia nodded. Yes. A strange feeling moved through him. Not anger. Not jealousy. Something closer to disbelief. 3 years ago, they were still finalizing their separation. 3 years ago, he was focused on protecting his assets, expanding his company, and proving to everyone that the divorce had not affected him. Meanwhile, Olivia had been building something entirely different. Something without applause. Without headlines. Without him. You never mentioned this, Nathan said. Olivia looked toward the window. Outside, the city continued moving. Cars passed. People walked. The world carried on without knowing that one conversation was changing everything. I didn't think it was something you needed to know. The answer was simple, but it carried years of history. Nathan remembered the last months of their marriage. He remembered coming home after midnight and finding Olivia asleep on the couch. He remembered saying he was working for their future. He remembered believing that providing financial security was the same as being present. At the time, he thought Olivia was unhappy because she didn't understand the pressure he carried. Now, sitting across from her, another possibility appeared. Maybe she was unhappy because she had been carrying something alone. Michael placed another file on the table. This company recently completed a major acquisition. Nathan looked at him. What kind of acquisition? The attorney glanced at Olivia before answering. One that placed Bennett Strategic Solutions among the fastest-growing firms in its sector. The room became quiet. Nathan slowly looked back at Olivia, the woman who once packed his suitcase before business trips, the woman who remembered every important date, the woman who stood beside him when nobody knew his name. She had created something that people now respected, and he had never seen it happen. Why didn't you tell me? Nathan asked. This time, there was something different in his voice. Not judgment, not confidence, a genuine question. Olivia folded her hands together. Because every time I tried to tell you about my ideas, you reminded me how difficult they would be. Nathan stayed silent. The words hurt because he knew they were true. He remembered those conversations, the ones where she talked about starting something of her own. He remembered saying, maybe later, maybe when things are easier, maybe when we have more stability. At the time, he thought he was protecting her from failure, but now he wondered if he had only been protecting his own image of her. Michael closed the file. Olivia never requested financial support during the separation. Nathan looked down. Another detail he had missed. Another assumption that had been wrong. She wasn't waiting for someone to save her, Michael continued. Olivia gently picked up the pen resting beside her documents. I was waiting for myself to believe I could do it. Nathan watched her, and for the first time in years, he did not see the woman who had left his life. He saw the woman who had rebuilt hers. The signature on the table was still waiting. But Nathan finally understood. The hardest thing he would lose was never written in the divorce agreement. It was the version of Olivia he thought he would always have access to. The hardest truth to accept is not that someone changed. It is realizing they changed while you were too busy looking away. The conference room remained still. Outside the glass windows, the city moved with its usual rhythm. Cars crossed the streets below. People carried coffee cups between buildings. Thousands of lives continued forward. But inside that room, Nathan Whitmore felt as if time had slowed down. The documents in front of him were no longer just papers. They were evidence of a chapter he had never known existed. Michael Reynolds placed the final business file beside the separation agreement. This transaction will officially complete Olivia's transition from founder to majority stakeholder. Nathan looked at the document again. Founder, majority stakeholder, words that belonged to someone else. Someone he never imagined would be sitting across from him. Olivia remained quiet. That was what surprised him most. She was not trying to make him uncomfortable. She was not waiting for an apology. She was not enjoying the fact that the person who once underestimated her was finally seeing the truth. She simply sat there, calm, present, completely at peace. You build all of this yourself? Nathan asked. Olivia nodded. Yes. How? The question escaped before he could stop it. Not because he doubted her anymore. Because he genuinely wanted to know. Olivia looked down for a moment. And for the first time during the meeting, Nathan saw a glimpse of the woman he remembered. Not the woman from the marriage. The woman beneath it. The same way everyone builds something important, she said softly. One decision at a time. Her answer was simple. But Nathan knew simple answers often came from complicated journeys. Michael opened another section of the file. After the separation, Olivia began consulting for small businesses. She used her experience from managing your company's operations for years. Nathan froze slightly. My company? Olivia looked at him. Our company. The correction was gentle, but it carried weight. Because Nathan remembered those years differently. He remembered himself working late nights, making sacrifices, taking risks. He remembered being the person everyone congratulated. But he had forgotten something. While he was building the public image of success, Olivia had been quietly managing the foundation beneath it. She understood clients. She organized systems. She solved problems nobody noticed. She had always been working, just without a title, without recognition, without applause. You were doing this while we were married? Nathan asked. Part of it. Why didn't you tell me how serious it was? Olivia looked toward the window. The sunlight touched her face softly. Because every time I talked about my ideas, you explained why they were unrealistic. Nathan looked away. The memory came back instantly. The conversations at the kitchen table. Her notebook filled with plans. Her excitement when she discovered a new opportunity. And his responses. Not cruel. Not intentionally. Just dismissive. He had never told her she couldn't succeed. He had simply acted like success belonged to people like him, not people like her. Michael gathered the documents together. There is one final thing you should understand. Nathan looked up. Olivia did not build this company to prove something to you. A pause. She built it because she finally stopped waiting for permission. The words settled quietly. Nathan looked across the table. For years, he believed losing Olivia meant losing someone who needed him. Now he understood the opposite. He had lost someone who never needed to be saved. She only needed the space to become who she already was. And sitting there, with the signature still waiting, Nathan realized the biggest mistake of his life was not ending the marriage. It was never seeing the woman beside him while he still had the chance. People often think losing someone happens the day they walk away. But sometimes, the real loss happens years later, when they finally understand what they let go. Nathan Whitmore remained silent. The pen was still between his fingers. A few minutes earlier, he had walked into the office believing this meeting would be the final step in ending his marriage. Now, he was no longer sure what exactly was ending. The divorce papers sat beside. Documents carrying Olivia's name. 2 different stories. 2 different futures. 1 table. Michael Reynolds gathered the files together carefully. Before we complete the final signatures, there is one more thing Olivia requested to clarify. Nathan looked at Olivia. She seemed almost surprised. I didn't request anything dramatic, she said softly. Michael nodded. No, but it is important. He turned a document toward Nathan. This agreement includes a transfer of certain shared business interests that remained unresolved after the separation. Nathan studied the page. For the first time that morning, his confidence disappeared completely. Shared business interests. Those words felt unfamiliar. Because in his mind, their marriage had always been divided clearly. He was the builder. She was the supporter. He made decisions. She trusted them. But the documents in front of him suggested a different reality. When did this become part of the agreement? Nathan asked. Months ago, Michael replied. Nathan looked at Olivia. Months. She nodded. I wanted everything handled properly. That answer bothered him. Not because it was wrong, because it sounded like Olivia had been preparing for this moment long before he realized there was anything to prepare for. The attorney continued. During the marriage, Olivia contributed significant operational work to Whitmore Enterprises. Nathan opened his mouth slightly. He wanted to disagree, but memories interrupted him. Late nights when Olivia reviewed schedules. Weekend mornings when she organized client information. Conversations where she quietly suggested improvements. At the time, he called it support. He never called it contribution. Michael placed another document on the table. Those contributions were never formally recognized. The room became quiet. Nathan looked down. A strange feeling settled over him. Regret. Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that appeared suddenly. The slower kind. The kind that arrived when old memories changed meaning. I thought you wanted a clean break, Nathan said. Olivia looked at him. I did. Then why keep any connection? She took a breath. Because a clean break doesn't mean pretending the past never happened. Her words were calm, but they carried something Nathan had forgotten. Respect. Even after everything. Even after the arguments. Even after the divorce. She was not trying to erase him. She was simply refusing to erase herself. Nathan looked around the room. For years, he had believed Olivia leaving meant she had given up. Now he wondered if leaving had been the first time she chose herself. Michael closed the folder. The final signature today will officially separate your personal lives. He paused. But it will also recognize the reality of what was built during your time together. Nathan looked at the pen again. The same pen he had picked up with confidence. The same pen he thought represented an ending. Now it felt different. Because he finally understood something. A marriage could end. A relationship could change. But that did not mean the person beside you had stopped growing. Olivia reached for her own copy of the agreement. Her hand was steady. No hesitation. No fear. Nathan watched her. And for the first time, he did not see someone walking away from him. He saw someone walking toward herself. The signature was waiting. But the truth had already been written long before the ink touched the paper. The moment someone realizes your value is often the same moment they understand they can no longer reach you the way they once did. The final documents remained untouched in the center of the table. But nobody was thinking about the signatures anymore. Not Nathan. Not even Michael. Because the conversation had moved beyond paperwork. It had moved into something far more difficult. Understanding. Nathan Whitmore looked at Olivia across the room. For the first time in years, he was not comparing her to the woman she used to be. He was seeing the woman she had become. And that realization carried a strange weight. I spent so much time thinking you were leaving because you were unhappy, Nathan said quietly. Olivia listened. But maybe I was wrong. The words surprised even him. Nathan was not someone who admitted mistakes easily. His entire professional life depended on confidence. People trusted him because he appeared certain, but confidence had never protected him from being wrong. Olivia looked down at the table. You weren't completely wrong. Nathan looked at her. We were unhappy. A pause. We both were. The honesty of her answer made the room feel different. There was no blame. No attempt to rewrite history. Just two people finally looking at the same past from different sides. Nathan remembered the arguments. The distance. The evenings when they sat in the same room, but lived completely separate lives. He remembered thinking Olivia had changed. But now another thought appeared. Maybe she had changed because she had been forced to grow in a place where she felt invisible. Michael closed his notebook. I think the remaining documents are straightforward. Nathan nodded slowly. But he did not reach for the pen. Not yet. Olivia. She looked up. I want to ask you something. Okay. When did you stop believing in us? The question was quiet. Almost fragile. Olivia did not answer immediately. She looked at the documents. Then at the window. Then finally back at him. I didn't stop believing in us all at once. Her voice remained steady. It happened in small moments. Nathan listened. When I stopped sharing my ideas because I already knew the answer I would hear. A pause. When I stopped telling you about my worries because you were already carrying what you thought mattered more. Another pause. And when I realized I was standing beside someone successful, but I was slowly disappearing. The words were not meant to hurt him. That was what made them impossible to ignore. Nathan looked away, because somewhere inside, he knew she was right. He had never intentionally tried to make Olivia feel small, but intentions did not erase impact. Sometimes people hurt others not because they wanted to. Sometimes they hurt them because they never stopped to notice. "I'm sorry," Nathan said. The apology was simple. No excuses. No explanation. Just 2 words he should have said years earlier. Olivia looked at him, and for a moment, Nathan wondered if those words were enough. But some things could be forgiven without being restored. Some doors could be closed peacefully. Michael quietly slid the final agreement toward them. "This is the last step." Nathan picked up the pen. This time, his hand felt different. Not because he was losing, because he finally understood. The signature was not taking Olivia away from him. She had already moved beyond that. The signature was simply acknowledging what had already happened. He signed. Then Olivia signed. 2 names. 2 separate paths. One final moment of honesty. When Olivia placed the pen down, Nathan noticed something. She looked lighter. Not happier because she had won. Not satisfied because he finally understood. Just free. And that was when Nathan realized the hardest part of losing Olivia was not that she had become successful without him. It was that she had found peace without needing him at all. The hardest goodbye is not when someone walks away. It is when you finally understand they were already gone long before they left. The office hallway was quieter than Nathan remembered. Perhaps it was because he was no longer rushing through it. For years, Nathan Whitmore had moved through buildings like this with certainty. People greeted him by name. Assistants cleared schedules for him. Meetings waited for his arrival. He was used to being important. But today, walking beside Olivia Bennett toward the elevator, he felt something different. He felt like a stranger. The final paperwork was complete. The marriage that once defined both of their lives now existed only in documents stored inside a legal file. Yet somehow, the ending felt less like a loss and more like a mirror. It showed him everything he had ignored. "Are you heading back to the office?" Nathan asked. Olivia pressed the elevator button. "Yes." "Still working this late?" A small smile appeared on her face. Sometimes, the answer reminded him of someone else. The Olivia he knew years ago. The woman who stayed awake finishing projects while he traveled. The woman who worked quietly while he received recognition. Except now, she was no longer standing behind someone else's success. She was standing in her own. The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The reflection in the mirrored walls showed 2 people who looked familiar but felt completely different. Nathan noticed the difference. Olivia looked lighter. Not because everything had been easy, because she had stopped carrying something heavy. "I owe you an apology," Nathan said. Olivia looked at him. "For what?" "For not seeing you." The elevator continued moving downward. A quiet mechanical sound filled the space between them. Nathan had apologized before, but usually his apologies came with explanations. Reasons. Defenses. This one had none. "I thought I was protecting us," he continued. "I thought if I handled everything, if I built enough, if I provided enough, then everything would be okay." Olivia listened. "But I think I forgot that a person can feel alone even when everything looks successful from the outside." For the first time, Olivia looked surprised. Not because she had never heard those words. Because she never expected to hear them from him. "You understand now," she said softly. Nathan nodded. Too late. The elevator stopped briefly on another floor. The doors opened. A group of employees stepped inside, talking about a project deadline. They recognized Olivia. Not immediately, but enough. One woman smiled. "Ms. Bennett, the presentation team is ready for tomorrow." Olivia smiled politely. "Thank you. I'll review everything tonight." The employees nodded respectfully. Nathan watched the interaction. It was a small moment. Almost nothing. But it revealed everything. People looked at Olivia differently now. Not because of him. Not because of the marriage she had lost. Because of the person she had become. When the elevator reached the lobby, the doors opened again. Olivia stepped forward. Nathan remained still for a second. Years ago, he would have expected her to wait. To look back. To need one more conversation. But she didn't. She simply turned. "Take care, Nathan." 2 simple words. No anger. No sadness. No hidden message. Just peace. He watched her walk toward the glass entrance as sunlight filled the lobby. And for the first time, Nathan understood the final truth. He had not lost Olivia when she signed the papers. He had lost her much earlier. The day he stopped seeing the woman beside him. The day he confused her silence with weakness. The day he believed her value existed only in relation to his. The elevator doors closed slowly, and Nathan stood alone, surrounded by reflections of a life he finally understood too late. In the end, the greatest victory is not making someone regret losing you. It is reaching a place where their regret no longer matters. 6 months had passed since the day Nathan Whitmore signed the final papers. 6 months since the marriage that once shaped his entire identity became a memory. 6 months since he watched Olivia Bennett walk away without anger, without revenge, and without looking back. Life continued. The world did not stop because two people ended a chapter. Nathan returned to his company. He attended meetings. He made decisions. He answered questions with the same confidence everyone expected from him. But something had changed. The silence between meetings felt different. The empty moments felt longer. Because now, whenever he saw success, he no longer measured it by numbers. He measured it by what it had cost him. One afternoon, Nathan attended a business conference downtown. Executives, investors, and entrepreneurs filled the grand ballroom. The room was filled with conversations about growth, innovation, and future opportunities. Then the host stepped onto the stage. Our next speaker represents one of the fastest-growing companies in the industry. Nathan glanced toward the screen behind the stage. The name appeared. Bennett Strategic Solutions. For a moment, everything around him became quiet. Not because he was shocked by the success. He already knew. Because now he understood the journey behind it. The person walking onto the stage was not the woman he left behind. It was the woman who had finally stepped into her own light. Olivia Bennett stood beneath the stage lights. Confident, calm, composed. She spoke about leadership, patience, and building something meaningful. She did not mention Nathan. She did not mention their marriage. She did not mention the years when nobody believed in her. She simply shared her story. A story about starting small. A story about learning. A story about rebuilding. Nathan watched from the audience. And for the first time, he felt no sadness. Only respect. Because he finally understood something important. Olivia's greatest achievement was never proving him wrong. It was proving herself right. After the event, Nathan waited near the entrance. Not because he expected anything. Not because he wanted to change the past. He simply wanted to say what he should have said long ago. When Olivia walked outside, she saw him. There was a brief silence. Then she smiled politely. "Congratulations," Nathan said. Olivia nodded. "Thank you. I mean it." "I know." Those two words carried more kindness than he expected. Nathan looked down for a moment. "I spent years thinking success meant being the person everyone depended on." Olivia listened. "But I think I finally understand." A pause. "Success is also knowing who you are when nobody is watching." Olivia smiled softly. "That's something I had to learn too." There was no bitterness. No unfinished argument. No desire to reopen the past. Only two people acknowledging what they had become. Nathan stepped back. "I hope you're happy." Olivia looked toward the city lights. "I am." And this time, Nathan believed her. She walked away. Not dramatically. Not to prove a point. Just moving forward. Because the woman who once wondered if she would be enough had finally discovered something greater. She had never needed to be enough for someone else. She only needed to be enough for herself. And that was the signature that truly changed everything.